Hey there, it's Joe Slack, and for this very first edition of Behind the Design, we're going to take a look at Pandemic, the 2012 release from Z-Man Games, made by Matt Leacock. Now this game has spawned so many other great games and expansions, from Cthulhu to Legacy to all sorts of different variations. So the reason I chose this game was because it's the game that got me into modern board gaming. As well, it has a lot of great mechanics that really tie in well together and are used as the basis for a lot of other cooperative games, including a lot of others by Matt Leacock. So let's dive into Pandemic. If you read the back of the box for Pandemic, you'll see that they lay out the game in 3 simple steps. 1. Treat diseases before they spread. 2. Meet up to collect cards. 3. Discover the cure for the disease. Cure all 4 diseases to win. But wait, every turn, new infections appear and outbreaks occur. Can you save humanity? Now that's an oversimplification of what you have to do in the game, but it really lays out the basic steps that you play in the game. There are so many different aspects of this great cooperative game that I'm going to walk you through. First of all, there's a random setup. You draw cards at the start of the game to determine exactly where the cubes will be placed, which represent the diseases. Players are also dealt random cards to start the game, representing cities as well as different events. Players can also choose from the various different characters. This allows the game to be asymmetric in that each player has different unique powers that can help them to win the game. For example, you could be a scientist and that'll allow you to only use 4 cards of the same color to discover a cure, whereas it's normally 5. The quarantine specialist prevents diseases from spreading to the city that they're in and they're connected to. And the medic, which is very powerful, removes all cubes of one color when treating a disease rather than just one, and automatically removes cubes from cure diseases from the city you're in, and prevents them from being placed there. In the game, you can do up to 4 actions on your turn. They're laid out on the reference cards. You can do things like move around, cure diseases, build research stations, and share knowledge. One of the key mechanics of Pandemic is set collection. You're trying to collect 5 cards of the same color in order to cure the disease. The turn structure is nicely outlined on the board. During your play, you do your 4 actions, then you draw 2 cards, resolve any epidemics, discard down to 7 cards, because that's your hand limit, and then infect cities with the infection deck. These actions include movement, removing cubes, building research stations, and other actions. So for example, you can do point-to-point movement. You could travel 1, 2, 3 spaces, and then for your 4th action, remove a cube from the board. You can build research stations. If you're in the same city and you have the right cards, you can trade them as well. Did I mention that Pandemic is cooperative? In this game, you must work together to cure diseases, move around the world, exchange cards, and save the world from this pandemic. There are also increasing levels of difficulty. As you can see, there are 6 epidemic cards. You choose your difficulty level from 4 cards to 6 to be placed into the deck. And then a really neat mechanic in this is that you separate the player cards into roughly equal decks. You will then add 1 epidemic card to each of these decks. You'll shuffle them together and then place them stacked one on top of another. So you don't know exactly when you're going to get an epidemic, but you know you're guaranteed not to get 4 in a row, which could happen if you were just to place them randomly in the deck and shuffle them. Throughout the game, these cards will come up and cause lots of problems for you. So it's a combination of needing to solve the problem, which is to cure all 4 of the diseases, while putting out fires, so to speak, because these cubes on here will cause outbreaks. Every time a city with 3 cubes on it is hit again, it outbreaks and spreads to more cities. If you get too many outbreaks, it's game over. Also, if you run out of cards, it's game over. There's lots of ways to lose, but only one way to win. With the set collection aspect, once a player has 5 cards of the same color, they can cure that disease. That's where this would be placed. If you're able to remove all the cubes of that color, you'll be able to actually eradicate that disease and no more can be spread. Action selection, various difficulty levels, asymmetrical powers, set collection, and point-to-point movement are just some of the aspects that make this such a great cooperative experience.